What's going on, brothers? What is going on? It is your dude, Mr. International Passport, here again for yet another classic stream, brothers. Let me know if you're here. Press a one, the live stream chat. Press a one. Who is here? Who is here? Press a one if you can hear me loud and clear. Press on one. Who's here? Base pill clips. Awesome, awesome. Can I get a couple more ones? Who else is here? Who else is here? Who else is here? Hey, the Black Muslim in the building. What's up, Rob? In a minute, Raphael. Awesome, man. Give me one more one. One more one. Who is here? Who is here? We got a new country, new vibes. Who is here? Press a one in the live stream chat if y'all can hear me loud and clear. Loud and clear. Aussie, awesome, awesome. So let's get straight into it, brothers. Let's get straight into it. So I'm your gracious host, Mr. International Passport. Welcome everyone for another Future Classic live stream. Obviously, first and foremost, when you come here, please like the video. Likes are very important. Join the Patreon, hit the super chats, hit the PayPal donation. Support. That will be greatly appreciated. So let's get straight into it, brothers. So in today's stream, okay, we have a new country to break down, and that is called Turks and Caicos. Okay, I got a very special guest here, me called Mr. D. Mr. D, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing pretty good, brother. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic, bro. Thank you, brother. Thanks for your time for this stream, brother. I'm looking forward to it. Let's get straight into it, bro. So, Mr. D, give us a brief background about who you are, where you're from, and anything interesting about you, bro.
All right, my pleasure, bro. So I'm from Queens, New York. I had moved down to Florida probably like 12 years ago. Currently, I'm in the HVAC industry, so that's going pretty well for myself. And pretty much, I'm trying to become a decent traveler, man. Been to about seven countries so far, and I got a long list ahead of me.
Awesome, awesome, bro. Well done, brother. So, Mr. D, let's get straight into it, brother. Turks and Caicos. Can I ask, brother, why you went there in the first place? And is that in the Caribbean as well? Break it down for us, bro.
Yes, sir. It's over near the south of the Bahamas, and pretty much when I travel, half of the time when I look for new places, I'm a big fan of beautiful waters. So I like to travel to beautiful islands and such as that. Been to the Bahamas already a few times. I have family out there and whatnot, so it's pretty much my backyard at this point. But I never went to Turks and Caicos, and I heard great things about it, so I looked it up, watched some videos on YouTube, checked it out, and decided to take a flight.
Awesome, bro. Awesome. So let's get straight into it, bro. I'm looking forward to hearing this breakdown. So where were you in Turks and Caicos? Was that the capital city, Cocktown, something like that?
No, actually, I was in Providenciales. I was at the most northwestern point of the island, near the Northwest National Park. There's a resort over there. I believe it's literally called uh Turks Caicos Resort, something like that. But if you look on the map, you go to the northwestern point of the Providenciales Island, and it's literally the furthest resort, all the way at the edge of the island. I stayed there for about 4 days. And when I went, I said I went about in March. I had went there, and a few years back. I went in March a few years back, and I absolutely loved it. They had the resort had their own little restaurant inside. The chef and a couple other guys would go out to the ocean and pretty much catch literally your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, bring it back to the resort and cook it right in front of you. So it was pretty decent.
Amazing, bro. Amazing. So so how do you spell that place you're in, the city? Well, how do you spell it?
Oh,
Spell it first.
Providenciales.
Yeah.
Providence. C-I, what was it? Provcidi. Hold on, let me I think I'm murdering that real quick. Let me look it up for you.
Okay, why do that, brother? I got a super chat. Hold on. Shout out to Mr. Sam Combo in the building. What's up, Sam? Hope you're doing well, brother, for the 499 super chat. Thank you, Sam, for the support. Salute IP here for the classic heading to Portugal in a few months. CIA Intel coming soon. Salute to you, Sam. Coming for that Intel, brother. Thank you, brother. Awesome. Go on, bro.
Yes, sir. So it's Providenciales.
Awesome. Thank you, bro. Awesome. So, brother, so you were in a resort, right, for your whole time over there, okay? I'm assuming, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so how was that resort? Was it a good resort? Well, tell us the good things about it, the bad things about it, and of course, tell us how much it cost you. Was it reasonable? Break it down for us, bro.
Yeah, man, it was actually pretty reasonable. Like I said, when I had went a few years ago back in March, the resort I gotta say probably spent around for the 4 days, 4.5 days that I stayed there, I probably dropped around like maybe 400, close to 400 in total. And the time that I went there, it actually happened to be pretty dead. I went with a small group though. The only other people there was probably a small group of maybe like Europeans. They were much older in age, looked like retirement age, so they were just out there hanging back, kicking it, and just chilling. But the resort itself was very beautiful. I rented a car, drove out. You got to drive through this long dirt road surrounded by tall grass, probably like 7 feet tall. Then you get to this resort at the end of the island, and it had was somewhat of an Italian feel, like an old Italian villa type feel. Pretty decent sized place. The room that I had was on the beachfront, so literally I had a small little balcony. It had a double door, so I'd walk out to the through the double doors, and the beach is literally right there. The food was great. They had the usual early morning breakfast. They had a nice little bar and restaurant inside the resort. Like I said, they anytime you wanted something to eat, it was mostly like seafood, which I love seafood, so I'm fine with that. They served a lot of jerk chicken and rice, conch salad, and these dudes would literally go out to the ocean, fish for the conch, bring it back, and then in like 30 minutes they have a fresh plate of conch salad, conch soup, whatever it is that you ordered, ready and made for you.
Amazing, amazing, bro. Fantastic. So, next question for you, bro, is now in terms of so, brother, on a daily rate and daily basis, would you say it was cheap, right? The resort, or was it expensive?
So at my resort, I really didn't have to pay for anything. But I will say overall, it's definitely not cheap. They do take US dollars out of there, but I'd say if you take about, let's say you go over there with about $500, you can pretty much almost double every dollar for the money that you spent. So they get everything imported to the island. They really don't have any natural resources when it comes to that department. They're under British rule, so everything gets imported into the island. So there's a tax on everything. So if you buy, let's say, a bottle of Coke that's usually runs you like $2 or $1.89, you're gonna spend pretty much like $3, $3.50 for it instead.
Okay, awesome, bro. So now, brother, yeah, in your time in Turks and Caicos, right? Obviously, it's an island in the Caribbean. Who was that island, brother? Is it the black Turks and Caicos people, the white people, the mixed race people? Who has the most power there?
I'd say the British definitely have the most power. Um, I had a conversation with some locals the whole time that I was there. They were really cool, really chill, and they pretty much had broke it down. And they said that the locals kind of they sought for their independence, but they quickly realized that they really couldn't do anything outside of the British control, simply because everything gets imported to them and they don't have anything else close by. Even if they wanted to go on their own, the guys told me that they would probably literally last like 2 to 3 years before everything shut down because they can't sustain themselves. Not just that, but when you go to the islands, it's which consists of like 40, maybe just over a little bit of 40 islands altogether. It's an absolutely beautiful, stunning place, but you can still see where the Brits pretty much came in. They mined them of their resources and they literally just left it as that. So certain parts of the island looks a little bit run down. You'll see these giant holes and stuff like that from where they were digging and everything else, digging up pretty much salt from the island. And so they kind of left it like that. So some of the island is very developed and it looks beautiful, but then certain parts of it kind of look a little bit third world country-ish, so to speak. So you can pretty much tell that. But yes, the British have the rule over the island, but for the most part, visually, I'd say it looks like it looks like pretty much the blacks, brother.
So, brother, British meaning the white British people.
Yeah, pretty much white British people.
Okay, okay. So now, brother, obviously, brother, you're a Western black man. Okay, you were there in Turks and Caicos. How are Western black men treated there, brother? Amongst the local population, how were you treated there, bro?
I say we're treated pretty good, to be honest. Honestly, most of the not natives, but most of the locals there, they're fairly between brown and dark skin, so they'll assume that you're a local, depending on your attire, depending on how you dress and whatnot. And of course, once you speak, they automatically know that you're from the States. But I gotta say, I mean, when I travel, I treat everybody's home with respect and whatnot. So as long as you go over there humble and respectful, the locals are pretty cool. They're pretty friendly. They're kind of curious though. You know, you seem like you're easy to talk to. They'll come up and ask you questions and stuff like that. But yeah, overall, I got pretty good respect. I didn't feel any type of way. I didn't get any side eyes. You just get stares though. Once you start talking, you will get some stares and stuff, but it's mostly out of curiosity. So if you don't mind the stares, then you're all good.
Okay, awesome, bro, awesome. So now, brother, in your time there, did you see any investment opportunities there in Turks and Caicos? Any sort of business opportunities there? What kind of business is booming over there?
Yeah, I was a little curious. Not a lot, but I was curious about it. Like I said, it's a very beautiful place. So I was actually pretty curious about what it would cost to live there. And I gotta say, the last time I checked, the rent was probably around like between, depending
Sorry,
on what
bro.
part of the
I
island
mean,
you're in.
sorry, bro. I mean, in terms of business.
Oh
So
yeah,
in
yeah,
terms
yeah. My apologies. My apologies.
and any business opportunities, companies, investments. Is there something that we can actually do there into the business?
Yeah, you can do that, but I didn't see too many American owned businesses. I came across maybe like one or two as far as the part of the island that I was in. I will say that I did notice that there was a few Dominican spots though. So the Haitians and Dominicans were over there pretty heavy, and I did notice some bars, some restaurants that were Dominican owned.
Okay, awesome, bro. So tell us more about people. Is it majority black people in Turks and Caicos? Is it mostly white people? What's the demographic breakdown there, brother, in terms of race?
Yeah, the majority is black. You'll have different areas. So you have there's a few expats that I ran into from the states that were there. They were brothers looking to just move to the island because they liked it. I also did notice there was a good decent size of Haitians there, also Dominicans, like I had stated as well. I did notice that some Brits were living over there too, a few French as well, and then it was a bit of a mixed population as far as I saw some Asians, not a lot, a few, but they kind of stuck together in their little packs and whatnot. But I'd say, yeah, as far as what I saw, I'd say you had a little sprinkle of Brits, you had some Western European, maybe a few Eastern European, you had some expats from the states, and you had a good sized portion of Dominicans and Haitians that came to the island and established their roots.
Awesome, bro. So how are the people of Turks and Caicos like? Are they kind people? Are they extroverts? Are they reserved? Are they nasty people? In your experience, brother, the people that live there, how they like, brother, personality wise, and how do they treat you?
So overall, I ran into probably I ran into about three different groups as far as where I was at. The first group that I came in contact with was over by my resort, and most of those people were fishermen, and they were humble people, so to speak, to put them in the best light. They were part of the lower class, but they were real cool. They were very humble, very respectful. As long as you give them respect, they were respectful. And so those are the ones that I talked to, and they kind of gave me a little bit of background about the islands and everything that was going on there. The second class that I spoke to was more so towards Grace Bay, over there where the touristy area is at. The workers over there, they were pretty chill. They were pretty cool as well, pretty respectful the same way. They seemed like they were probably just a bit higher in class as far as income wise. And I really don't have anything bad to say about them. But then there was another group. They were more reserved, and that was in I gotta say that was in certain local areas around certain inner city bars and restaurants. They seemed a bit reserved. They kind of checked you out in the background. I guess trying to get a feel for your personality type. Because from what I was told by a few of the locals, we they get a lot of American tourists, and the Western tourists kind of come over there sometimes with Western mindset of entitlement and kind of just treat it like it's their backyard and whatnot. So they kind of fill you out first to see if you're like that, and if you're not, then they'll go ahead and approach you. Or if you need any questions, or if you're looking for directions, they're pretty cool with that. They're pretty friendly as far as that. So yeah, I didn't have a problem with that.
Amazing. This sounds like a hidden gem so far, bro. I'm liking what I heard so far. So, next question for you, bro. Now it's now in terms of so how did you meet people there and make friends in Turks and Caicos? Did you go to like, the museum? Did you go to the beach to meet people? How were you meeting people there, bro?
So to be honest, I love the beach, bro. I pretty much just stayed in the beach area. I went into to town into the city to get groceries, and just to stop at a couple restaurants to get some food. But me, I'm a pretty social guy, so it's really not hard for me to approach people. I'll just kind of sit back and pretty much size up the room and see who looks the easiest to talk to, and then I'll literally just go up there and ask them questions. And they immediately know I'm American, so I kind of have that buffer. So I'll just go up to them and say, hey, where are the best spots to eat this, or where can I go for this, or where can I go for that. And I usually come up to them in a humble manner, and once they see that, they open up pretty quick. They're actually pretty friendly, and they'll go ahead and tell me anything that I need to know. And so yeah, I just stayed along the beaches, went to the a couple restaurants. I saw a couple bars. I really didn't go in there too much to some of the bars because it wasn't really my speed. But other than that, you just go up to them, keep a humble attitude, and just play that visitor card, and you'll be fine.
Awesome, awesome, bro. So, in terms of transportation, how were you moving around, bro? Break it down for us. Was it bus, train, subway, Uber? How does one move around there, transportation wise?
So I didn't use Uber or Lyft. I did rent so when we went with a small group, so we rented a van. And in Turks and Caicos, they drive on the left side of the road. So we rented a little kind of like a little sprinter van. It did take some getting used to just because I'm not, familiar with driving on the left side of the road. Some of the vehicles have the steering wheel on the left, some of them are on the right. So it will take you a second to kind of gain your bearings with that, but that's pretty much how I got around, from like I said, the edge of the northwest point into town and then back. But once you take about, I say, a half a day, you get pretty used to it. I did also notice that they did have their own little transit system. Um, they had a couple buses and whatnot. And then you could take a ferry depending on where you're going, I guess, to the other islands. I didn't have to take that because, like I said, where I was at, everything was there. I didn't need to go any further than that. And I wasn't really interested in traveling to the other islands. So it was pretty straightforward for me.
Awesome, bro. Awesome. So, brother, food. How is the food there in St. Caicos? Is the food good? Tasty?
Yeah, the food was straight, bro. The food was pretty good. It's your I gotta say it's your standard island food. You got jerk chicken and rice. You had plenty of seafood, shrimp, salmon, snapper. You had plenty of conch. Um, Everything was super fresh. I'll say that. As far as like where I stayed at, and along that area, along the coast and the beaches, everything was pretty fresh. I enjoyed it. I didn't have any problem with it. And I come from back in Queens, New York. I grew up in a neighborhood that was mostly Islanders, Dominican, Puerto Rican. So I'm used to that kind of food. So everything was pretty good for me. There was this one place that was probably like 15, 20 minutes away that was called Delicious Dishes. And that was a local run spot. They were pretty cool there too. Got I made a couple friends over there at the restaurant. Got to know them. It's kind of like a mom and pop shop, sort of like a bodega style restaurant. You just kind of walk in, order your food, you wait for your turn, grab your food, and then just go ahead and head out. But that was pretty good. I will say on the grocery side, if anybody does go there for groceries, the groceries do get expensive. Like I said, they hit them with an extra tax on that just because they import everything. So if you're looking to spend about, let's say 50, $60 in groceries, you're probably gonna end up spending 80, $90 in groceries instead, just because of that extra tax on everything.
Amazing. Okay, bro. But what was your favorite cuisine there in Turks and Caicos?
Oh man, there was honestly, bro, there was some stuff that I never even heard before. They had a lot of seafood salads. The Kong soup was probably one of my favorites. They also had another Kong dish that had like a how do I describe it? It had like a creamy, spicy consistency in the middle, but it had like this hard, doughy baked kind of like crust around it. So you kind of broke through the crust, and then that's where you got like the kind of like somewhat of a soupy texture in the middle. It was pretty spicy. So if you're not used to spicy foods, I will say you have to think about that ahead because a lot of the restaurants and stuff they serve a lot of spicy foods there. So you kind of got to expect that. But of course, they got Americanized restaurants like you got your Burger Kings and stuff like that you can find out there and whatnot. But for me, I was perfectly fine eating that.
Awesome, bro. So, brother, was the food cheap or was it expensive?
So I don't know if you're familiar with like the typical styrofoam platter that you get at like your local takeout place and whatnot. When I went to a couple restaurants, especially Delicious Dishes, that's mainly what they serve was the to-go platters that you get. And I'd say a regular size to-go platter in the styrofoam container, they pretty much they packed every time I ordered from them, they would pack it to the brim, and I'd spend about close to between 13 to $15, depending on what you get. I usually got rice and chicken. If I got anything with shrimp or fish, or even conch, it would go up to like 16, 18, $20 a plate. So it can kind of get a little expensive. It goes up higher from that depending on what you order. So I definitely say you got to think about that ahead of time.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, bro. So next question for you right now. Oh, shout out to hold on, bro. Shout out to Mr. Banzera Elite. Banzer Elite One for the $20 super chat. Thank you, bro, for the support. Much appreciated, bro. That means a lot. Thank you so very much. So next question for you, brother, right now is in terms of cost of living. Um, when you compare the cost of living of Turks and Caicos and America, is America more expensive or is Turks and Caicos more expensive than America? Break it down for us.
I'd say it really depends. I only looked into it a little bit just out of curiosity when I was over there, but it kind of depends on which island that you're going to. As far as I know, in Providenciales, it was when I spoke to some locals, they told me somewhere around like 1,500 to about two grand a month as far as rent. And they showed me a couple apartments what the places look like. And to be honest, me personally, I wouldn't pay that much for what I saw. it just didn't add up to me. But then again, like I said, they're under British rule. They really don't have a lot of options, and the annual salary is somewhere around like 30K, like 30K for the average person. So I think it's kind of high for what you get. Like one bedroom, two bedroom, you're paying 1,700 to $2,000 a month. So as a Westerner, I'd say you definitely need to come with your American bank account. I probably wouldn't establish a business there unless you had enough money in the bank to support that cost of living.
Awesome, go. Awesome, bro. Awesome. So, next question for you then right now is, brother, is now in terms of safety. So, is Turks and Caicos safe in the daytime, in the nighttime? Any sort of danger out there? Break it down for us, brother. How safe is it?
Yeah, I'd say it's actually pretty safe. I really didn't feel like I needed to look over my shoulders too much at any point, especially during the daytime. Like I said, when I stayed in the Providenciales, which was super touristy, pretty much packed with people everywhere. And yeah, I didn't feel the need to kind of like, check the corners and look left and right everywhere I went, to make sure I was good on both ends. I will say though, at there's certain parts like so on the road back to my resort, there's a long road, a long dirt road, which they have a few of those out there, and it was literally surrounded by this tall grass. Like I said, it's like 6, 7 feet tall, bro, on both ends of the pathway of the dirt road. And I did see like random locals kind of coming in and out of that grass. I seen that in the daytime. I seen it at night, and sometimes I seen like 3 or 4 people coming out of the grass. So I will say certain areas I probably wouldn't walk at night just because you're not sure what type of element or what type of nature they had. They looked dang, how do I say this as respectful as possible? They look very, very humble. They look like they were coming from very humble beginnings, and they would kind of stare you down as you were driving by. So I'm not sure what it would be like walking past them in the middle of the night. Other than that, as far as the inner city, the only things I would probably warn about is going to the clubs and bars at night. There is a certain type of hood element in certain places. But like I said, as long as you know you're humble, you're cool, you're respectful, there's typically no problems. I would say you would more probably have to worry about the women at night versus the men. But other than that, everybody honestly is they're pretty chill. They're all island vibes, low key, calm. As long as you just come over there respectful, you're straight.
Okay, but nighttime can be a bit sketchy. Would you say that there's some drugging taking place, spiking of drinks?
I would say only if you were going to if you were off the beaten path and you were going to some of the local places that are down the blocks and inside the neighborhoods. I probably wouldn't do it just because you'll stick out like a sore thumb and you're not really sure what you're gonna get yourself into. But as long as you stay in the tourist areas, you stay by the beach, by the coastline, you're pretty good because it's well populated. I mean, literally, there's like hundreds of tourists. So that whole area just caters to tourists all up and down the beach and everything else. So it's pretty decently lit. Like I said, you got everybody from Europeans, you got British that are over there, you got some Asians that are over there, you got a really good mixed crowd. So it typically feels pretty safe, but of course keep your wits about you. But I didn't have a problem. I just stayed away from those little side alleys and back streets. I just made sure I walked all along across the beach and I was pretty good.
Awesome, bro. Fantastic. Uh, are there any club and bar names you recommend for brothers, if you can remember?
Um, so me typically I didn't really go to any of the clubs and bars, to be honest. That was more like a just a way to unwind. It was like an unwind trip, take a break away from the stress and everything else. Just a really laid back trip. I
Mm.
did see there were some bars and stuff that seemed like they were pretty popping out there over by Grace Bay in that whole area. Really, if you just look up Grace Bay, that whole surrounding area is full of restaurants and bars all up and down the beach. There's a lot of, like I said, there's some Dominican spots. There's a lot of nightlife spots that are pretty popping over there. They seem like they were pretty chill and whatnot. But I didn't bother going into a lot of them really because that just really wasn't the vibe that I was going for on that trip. So but they seem pretty cool. You had a lot of Americans over there. You had a lot of Western Europeans that were in there too as well. So it seemed like if that was the place to be, you would go.
Fantastic. So now, brother, in terms of racism, obviously I know it's a majority black country, but white people are there, white Brits, white Europeans. Did you experience any racism at all? Any sort of slur said towards you? Anything of that sort, bro?
Nah, to be honest, I didn't have none of that really. And to be honest, I didn't hear any locals throwing any slurs around or anything like that. When I did run into like small groups of you know what I'm saying, non-blacks, they were pretty cordial to be fair. I don't know if it's the fact that the majority of the country is the darker skin. I don't know if that has something to play with it, but they were all pretty respectful. What I will say is that passing certain areas where there's like club music and everything else, they are playing rap songs with the full version of the song. So you are hearing slurs out in the middle of the street. And they don't seem edited at all. They seem like they play the song in its full content.
Awesome, awesome, bro. So now, in terms of culture, so what kind of culture is Turks and Caicos? Is it a conservative culture? Is it a liberal culture? Is it a mixture of two? And tell us why.
So from what I noticed, it's a mixture. I want to say it's more liberal than anything to be honest, but there is a mix of conservative and liberalism. It depends on where you're at. If you're in the main touristy area, you feel like you're kind of back in the States. You feel like you're back in the Western culture, to be honest. You'll find a lot of women and scandalous clothes and whatnot. They're and it's kind of like a beach town. It's got that beach vibe. So everybody's walking around, dressing as they're dressing, um, without no worry about it. As far as the attitude, um, I kind of felt the ones that I talked to, the people that I talked to and interacted with, um, most of them seem the older crowd, I will say. The older women and men that I talked to, they seem pretty conservative. They seem pretty well rounded and respectful. But once you got to getting around the younger crowd, they seemed a lot more Americanized, which I thought was a little, I kind of hoped it was a little bit better than that. But like I said, it was like as if I was in Florida when I talked to certain groups. So the older crowd was a lot more conservative. The younger crowd was definitely very liberal. Um, they walked around like that. They talked like that. They dressed like that. So, but like I said, it's a high touristy area. They have about like 500,000 tourists that come over there every year, and most of them are American. Like I said, the music is mostly American. Um, Along the beach and everything else, you get that Western vibe with the culture and how people behave themselves. So if you go off the beaten path and you go to some of the less touristy islands, you kind of get a different vibe. People are a little more reserved. So it just depends on where you really fall at.
Awesome, bro. So the lifestyle that you can live in Turks and Caicos as a passport, bro. What kind of lifestyle is it, bro? Is it a chill lifestyle, a fast-paced lifestyle? We IT bros as well. So is it a good spot to live a high cost chill lifestyle, bro?
So I'd say it depends on the individual. It depends on what you really want it to be. When I was there were groups they were turned up. They were pretty lit. They were out there, on the yachts and whatnot, on the catamarans, at night, turning it up, living their best life, riding around and popping bottles and all that good stuff. And then there were certain groups that were pretty chill, just reserved, just trying to stay low key and have a good time. Um, there are a lot of celebrities that do go out there. So you do have certain fan bases that are kind of chasing celebrities just to, get that one time shine. So it just depends if you stay in the main islands, especially the inner city along the beach routes and the touristy areas, it's definitely gonna be a higher rate of living. Everything's gonna be a little bit more expensive. It's gonna be more of a party life type style. It's pretty much gonna be a whatever goes type lifestyle. The further inland you go, the more reserved it got, the more relaxed it got. And I talked to a few locals and whatnot, and so they told me depending where you're at, as long if you stayed along the resorts and stuff like that, along the beach, you can expect the nightlife scene. You can expect a little bit of a faster paced lifestyle. It's not going to be too crazy because, like I said, they're out there on the islands and whatnot. But yeah, it just pretty much depends for the most part.
Okay. So, uh, what about the lifestyle that Turks and Caicos people are living? Are they living good out there, or is it tough for them out there, bro?
Nah, to be honest, I don't think me personally, and I could be wrong, but from the places that I went to the local markets. I went to there was something that was equivalent to Walmart that was out there. In certain stores like that I visited. And to be honest, they didn't really seem like they were doing that well. Like I said, the average annual income is like between 25 30K a year. So they seemed like they were just getting by. To be honest, I gotta say they definitely seemed like they were living paycheck to paycheck. So if I give a recommendation to anybody, I definitely wouldn't go out there flashing anything. I wouldn't give somebody a reason to try to come up on what I'm saying, come up on a lick or anything like that, because they just didn't seem like they were doing too well financially. As far as the vehicles, the cars and stuff that I saw, a lot of them were older models. I'm talking about 2002 Toyota Camry, older style Honda Civics and whatnot. Don't get me wrong though, you definitely got your Benzes and your BMW M3s and whatnot out there, but that's reserved for the higher class people that are just passing through the area and whatnot. But as far as Providenciales, you go to the main supermarket over there. It's a very very humble experience, I must say. I looked at everybody what they're wearing. I just kind of checked everybody out. Looked at what they were wearing, looked at what they were driving, how they moved, what they bought, just out of curiosity. And I gotta say, most of them generally were living pretty humble. It seemed like they were just getting by. I talked to a couple people randomly, and they said that they really weren't making that much. They said the tax was too high for them, which I believe, like I said. But other than that, yeah, I definitely say they're living pretty humble. Not that well to be honest, man.
Okay. So, thanks for that breakdown there, brother. Let's go on to the woman part, brother. So, break down the woman in Turks and Caicos, bro. That's my first question to you, brother. Is are the women in Turks and Caicos chicken heavy for brothers?
I say yeah. Um, they definitely checking for brothers, mostly Western brothers. I wouldn't say there was a lot of curiosity. As far as the few that I talked to, it was more curious about the American culture. Um, some of them seemed a little bit too curious about the American culture. I think they had the impression of the glamorous lifestyle. They want to know like, do you see this person? Do you see that person? When you step outside, is it really like this? Is it like that? How much does it cost to live over there? They ask a lot of questions like that, but that's typically once they feel comfortable around you. Um, the women seem a little bit reserved in certain areas, and then at the same time, you go near the bars and the club, they're a little more aggressive. Not really my type. And I gotta say, as far as visually, aesthetics wise, I mean, if you're looking for a wife that's BBW on the thicker side, you know what I'm saying, then that might be where you want to go. But They mostly had that American mindset. They didn't seem to a lot of them didn't seem too big into to health. And again, I don't know if that's a byproduct of their financial situation. Um, yeah, I don't know if that's a byproduct of their financial situation or not. They didn't really have a lot of healthy choices, but at the same time, I did see there were other women there, mostly like Haitians, that were in shape. They seemed
Sorry, bro.
okay.
Hold on. So they're checking for brothers, right? Cool. Now, can you break down, right, the demographics of women there in terms of nationality and race? So obviously there's black women there, there's Turks and Caicos women there. You mentioned Haitian women. Did you see any Asian women there? Did you see any, white women there? And were they all checking for brothers, or did you get most love from the black chicks? Break it down for us. So demographics first.
All right, so yeah, the black ones, they were kind of 50-50. They kind of had that Western mindset. They'll give you a certain look or whatever. If they realize that you were American, then it may have piqued their interest and they came to you, wanted to approach you and ask you some questions. I'd say the Haitians and Dominicans were probably, in my opinion, for me, aesthetically, were a little bit more appealing. Not just them. I saw Asians, but they were a small group out of the demographic, to be honest, and they pretty much stayed with each other. Um, they were a little bit more reserved as far as their interest in you, depending on if you were at the bar or if you were out shopping. A lot of them I kind of seen when I was out shopping at the Walmart equivalent. I seen them kind of walking around. There was a good number of Western Europeans. I will say that there was a good number of Western Europeans, and but most of them kind of came. They were with other people. So when people visited, they were either with family, in groups of friends, or I did also notice a large group of girls that were pretty much on that girls trip vibe. So you have like 4 to 8 chicks, random groups of women that pretty much seemed like they were on the girls trip vibes. Most of them were BWs from the Western world, to be quite fair. Um, you had the BWs from the Western world. You had a good portion of Haitian women, the Dominican women. You had a very small group of Asians. You had a decent sized portion of Western European. There was a few Eastern European women that were there. Um, I say there was a few French too as well. There was a few French that visited, but I gotta
Okay.
say probably the most friendliest, the most outgoing were the local BWs and the Dominican women. But you gotta be careful depending on where you meet them because you do have some pros out there that are just working the game. So you gotta kind of be careful who you're really talking to as far as certain areas and especially at night.
Okay. Awesome, bro. So so you got the most love from the local black woman. Is that confirmed? Yeah. You say so?
Yeah, but those so all right, let me break it down. So there's two groups of those women in themselves. You have the more reserved ones that seem like they're from the outskirts of the city. They're a little shy, but if they see that you're cool and everything else, they'll open up to you. And then you have the inner city ones. And the inner city ones, I don't know, bro, they kind of have that American attitude for some reason. You know what I'm saying? They just seem bothered. When you approach them, they just like they look like they got that bothered face on them. Like you really don't even want to ask them anything, just because they seem like they got that resting face. So if I was to approach any type of local woman, it would be someone that was dressed a little more conservatively, and you can spot that a mile away. And I'd say the Haitian and Dominican ones. But again, coming towards the Haitian and Dominican ones, if you can pick out a modest type one, you'll be fine. I would definitely stay away from the ones that are dressed a little bit scandalous. They'll come out at night and you kind of see that mannerism in them, and I would just stay away from them. because from what I was told, you got those pros, and then you got those ones that are looking to make a come up. So they're gonna try to play. They're gonna try to cater to your ego. You know what I'm saying? Get you to drink this, get you to drink that, and then yada yada yada.
Okay, thank you, bro. Now, what about mixed race tan skin woman there? Brown skin, light skin, tan woman there. Is that in abundance in Turks and Caicos? The light skin looking Rihanna's, did you see that there, brother? And really checking for you and brothers.
So the women like that, as far as I saw, the ones that I seen, they came from either another part of the islands or they were visiting. So a lot of the women that piqued my interest were international. They weren't even, to be honest, they weren't even from Turks and Caicos. They were coming from, like I said, other islands or other countries, Britain, Germany. There was some women that came from like Japan. There was a few Japanese that were there.
Oh,
Um,
oh,
yeah, you
okay.
had a few of them, but they stayed in groups. I don't know if they, to be honest, I don't know if they were intimidated just because the majority of the population was predominantly, black. So I don't know if they were a little bit intimidated. You feel me? But along the tourist routes, like I said, you go around the cays and stuff like that. You go to what's that beach? Great K. You go along the beach areas of the Providenciales, and I think you'll be pretty fine. So you'll find a few mixed chicks. I really don't know what ethnicity they were from, but the European chicks, like I said, I ran into some French ladies out there. They came out there to just have a good time and whatnot. They were pretty cool. They were pretty friendly. What else did you have out there? I gotta say, most of the to be fair, to be honest, most of the international women that were visiting were the more attractive. They were the more attractive. They were the more aesthetically pleasing ones that I saw, as far as like in shape and stuff like that. Um, yeah. I'm sitting here. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think because I'm playing back my memory and looking back at
So,
all of that there.
brother, hold on. So, when you were there in Turks and Caicos, were there a couple international chicks that showed you love?
There were some ones that were pretty curious. They asked, where I was from and stuff like that.
And
But I
where were
didn't
they from?
venture to.
Sorry, and where were they from? The ones that showed you love, all that were curious.
So they were from Eastern Europe. So there was a couple that were from Germany. There was a couple from France that was there, and they were pretty. And that was pretty much just because they heard the American accent. To be quite honest, because other than that, like I said, most of the complexion there is medium to dark skin, so they automatically assume that you're a local until you speak. And then once you speak and they hear that, that Western accent, then they're kind of curious. They're like, oh, well, how long you here for? Who you with? Yada yada yada, this and this and that.
Fantastic. Okay, so, Bobby, you're saying that Turks and Caicos, from what I'm hearing so far, is not a place to find a wife. And keep it real with me, brother. You wouldn't go there to find a wifey.
To be honest, bro, I wouldn't expect to find wifey. And because it's so saturated, it's one of the most popular places in the Caribbeans, the in the Bahama area to visit. There's just so many there's so many Western tourists and tourists in general. I mean, the population is somewhere around like 45,000 people, and you have 500,000 tourists visiting a year. So it's literally just saturated with people from every other place but there. So I really wouldn't expect to find a decent woman. Not to say that that's not possible, depending on how long you stay there, but you might have a difficult time finding that. Even when I went to the local spots, the women weren't exactly, what I was looking for. I wasn't too interested. and what I saw. So I pretty much just stayed to myself on that end. But everything else was Western culture, to be honest, bro. They cater to the tourists. It's a lot of their income comes from the tourists. To be honest, they got so many excursions and attractions catered to visitors that that's a good amount of income that comes in for them. So it has that whole Western vibe to it, you know. So they pretty much adapt that mindset and that culture. So I wouldn't go there expecting to find a wife, to be honest. Not to say that it can't happen, but yeah.
Okay, so brother, so how come? So in your opinion, brother, right? How does Turks and Caicos fit into Pan Passport Bros? How can, where do we put Turks and Caicos as Passport Bros? Now, let me go here first. Based on what I've heard so far, I wouldn't go there to find a wife. Okay, I wouldn't go there to find a girlfriend. I'd probably go there just to chill out, enjoy the beach, work remotely there in IT, experience scenery. Is that how we should tackle as Passport Bros, or is more to it than what I've just said? What's your opinion, bro?
Honestly, I would go there with an open mind. It's an absolutely beautiful place. I mean, it's literally, as far as scenery wise, it's literally one of the most beautiful places that I've gone to. Um, it's friendly vibes. I was comfortable the whole time. I was treated with respect. The people were pretty cool, pretty respectful. So I definitely say if you're going out there to, just to catch a vibe, to chill, do some work on the laptop, that's fine. If you go to if you step away from the tourist areas, I'm pretty sure you might find a local woman that's worth your time. It just depends on how long you stay there. So if you stay there 3, 4 days, 4 to 5 days, I wouldn't even try, just because you have to sift through so much of the Western culture to get what you're really looking for, that it's just not worth your time. If you stay there about 2 weeks or so, you might be able to find something worthwhile, but other than that, I would go for pretty much just to relax, to unwind, because like I said, it's an absolutely beautiful place. A stunning set of islands, beautiful water and everything else. You'll have a great time, enjoy the excursions, take advantage of it, and just unwind. But as far as possibly, finding that right woman, I don't know, man. It comes off as a task if I'm really being honest.
Uh, let me drill down more into the Japanese chicks, right? Were they checking for you, brother? The Japanese women out there, or no?
So I gotta say, because like I said, the dominant population was black. They really they pretty much deemed you as a local until you spoke. And then when they heard you speak, that piqued their interest, because now they know you're not a local, and they're wondering, why you're there. So you'll get the stares, you'll get the looks. Um, but I think they were honestly too shy to approach. And I had so much going on with the little group that I was at, that I didn't even bother really to go over there, because that just wasn't the time that I was on. But I will say they gave you the looks, they gave you the stares, they looked more curious than anything. And I really believe that if someone was to go over there, if you went over there dolo, went over there by yourself, and you approached them, I think you would do pretty fine, because they didn't look like they gave you some inviting looks, some looks of curiosity, kind of like, off to the corner, like I said, just as, kind of giving you a look as if you walked over there, they might give you some time of day. Um, but they were usually in groups of like threes, fours, maybe five. They stood out a lot just because there really wasn't a lot of them out there, so it wasn't too hard to find them once you noticed them.
Okay, awesome, bro. So, brother, in our so we have 15 more minutes left, brother. I know you got a hard stop. You got to leave soon, brother. So let me open up the phone lines, brother. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, yeah, that's fine.
Awesome, awesome. So, brothers, if you have any questions in regards to Turks and Caicos, we're gonna open up the phone lines right now for y'all to obviously call in and say your questions. If not, Um, you know, um, it's all good. So, special announcement. I now have a kick channel. Okay, and yeah, brothers, go and follow me on Kick right here. Okay, I'm gonna post a link to it. Anyone know how this Kick stuff works? So I'm going live on there, but uh, no viewers. I'm guessing because I'm new on there. But if you know how to, use Kick, how I can get viewers on Kick, reach out to me. Let me know in the chat. I'm on Kick. All right. I'm also on Rumble too. So I'll post it in the chat as well for y'all brothers, man. So here's my Kick channel. Go and follow me on Kick. And here's a link to my Rumble page. Go follow me on Rumble. Okay. If you don't know how to use Kick, let me know. Um, so many new things coming out. I got to try and utilize it all. So if you can, please let me know. Okay, let me post a link to my Rumble. Go follow me on Rumble too. So Kick and Rumble. Okay, there's my Rumble page. Go follow me on Rumble. Yeah, so I don't know how I'm gonna get views on Kick. I don't know how the Kick algorithm works, but I got to research that. If you know anything about Kick, anything about Rumble, let me know. Please reach out to me. That'd be greatly appreciated. So any one of y'all got questions? Now's the time. We'll pop the phone lines. Brother, we'll give it 5 minutes. If no one calls in, brother, we'll wrap it up and end the
Yeah, yeah,
stream.
sure thing.
Awesome,
I
bro.
will. I also want to say this though, brother. I was So I'm kind of into real estate. I do want to get my foot in the door in that aspect. So
Hmm.
when I was there, I was kind of curious. Everywhere I go to, I kind of look into as far as like if we can buy anything as far as foreigners, like purchase real estate and whatnot. And I did find out that in Turks and Caicos, it's very tax friendly. There's no income tax. There's certain other taxes that are exempt for you to go over there and purchase real estate. And from what I found out is that it's pretty much. I'm not sure how it is in the UK and the EUE area in the EU area, but as far as the United States is concerned, I mean, pretty much you contact somebody, you see something that you like, you contact the individual, you set up a date and time to check everything out, you go through the deal as regular, and you pretty much put down like 8 to 10% for the deposit, and you pay everything at the closing of the deal. So I did find that pretty interesting. So I do think if anybody's actually interested in maybe open up in an Airbnb or a rental property there, I do think it is actually something worth looking into.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Wow. Thank you, bro. Good stuff. So I've opened the phone lines. We'll give it a couple minutes and then we'll wrap it up if no one calls in. Great stream, bro. Great stream. So, do you have any plans on going to? Do you have any plans on going to Turks and Caicos, brother, in the future again?
Yeah, to be honest, I wanted to, like I said, I only stayed in the Providenciales, so I do plan on going. I do want to go back and visit the other islands. Like I said, they have about 40 some odd islands, and from what I was told, like 4 to 6 of them are really inhabited. I want to check out the other ones and see what it's like, but I'm not in such a hurry because when I was exploring the island I was on, it was just really it was really saturated with tourists, to be honest, and that was kind of a turn off. So I was really glad that the northwestern point of the island that I was at was very low key. There wasn't that many people over there. Um, but yeah, I gotta say, if anybody visited the island, it's a very beautiful place to stop by. Absolutely stunning. I mean, the water is crystal clear. It's you got crystal clear water to different blues and different hues of blues. Absolutely amazing. Great place to stop, especially if you're like traveling in between countries. If you got extended PTO or anything like that, I would definitely say make it a stop on your travel, headed to another country, and definitely take a look because of the amount of tourists that visit the island. It could possibly be a very lucrative deal to invest in an Airbnb and a rental because they have Airbnbs all over the place. And the amount of tourists, especially, and I also say this, it just came to my mind. I see more female tourists than I did males. I'm not exactly sure why, um, but I've seen more female tourists, especially more groups of women visiting the island than anything. And they were taking part of all the excursions, everything that was possibly offered to them. I will say that. Another tidbit on the aspect of safety. I will say if you travel in a group that's mixed between male and female, or if it's a female group that's going, or if it's just an all male group that's going, again, from what the locals told me, when you stop by the bars and the clubs, they're pretty popping, they're pretty jumping and all that. But the male locals will target the females and try to hustle them. You know what I'm saying? Try to get this out of them, try to get that out of them. And you will have the female locals. Again, the foreign women that took up root there, mostly, unfortunately, the Haitian Dominican ones that take up root there, they will target the males. Like I said, you do have pro workers that are there too. So I do encourage men that go out to these bars and these nightlife clubs. If you do go there, just be careful, brothers. Because they know you're a foreigner, they know you're not really familiar with the area, so they might try to take advantage of you. And they look good. So you know what I'm saying? They're banking on that you just focus on their looks and try to take advantage of that. But yeah, that just came to mind, so I wanted to bring that up to the forefront.
Awesome, bro. So, bro, no callers. Let's wrap it out, bro. So, brothers, thank you very much for watching this live stream, brothers. We hope you consider Turks and Caicos, and I hope you've enjoyed this live stream. So, brothers, I will see you tomorrow for yet another new country as well. It's a new country. I won't tell y'all yet, but it's a very interesting stream. Going to be a great breakdown not only on women but heavy on business, leaving the matrix, etc., etc. So I look forward to having that stream with y'all, brothers. So IP International here, passport. Thank you for all the super chats. Let me check. Let me check the PayPal. Hold on again. Hold on, bro. Do you have any closing statements, bro?
Nah, I don't really have any comments, man. I say, yo, again, Turks and Caicos, beautiful place to go to. Go there for more so the relaxation and enjoyment of the islands themselves. You know what I'm saying? Take part of the excursion and everything. If you go there looking for women, I don't really think that's the spot necessarily. Go there for business and to catch some R&R, you feel me?
R&R, keeping it PG. What's that?
Oh, rest and relax, rest and
Oh,
relaxation, my guy. Yeah, rest and relaxation, bro. My bad.
shout out to Josh John for the $2 super chat. IP brother, when will you have another stream of Feel? So that will be on Monday. Josh John, on Monday, Feel will be back. Monday. Thank you for the support. Much appreciate. Much appreciate. So great live stream. Thank you, D. Turks and Caicos does sound interesting. I love when beaches are blue, crisp, clean. Brother, it's like you can see your own reflection in clean water. Um, it's great, right? When the beach is just super clean and pristine, crystal blue, bro. And looking at the picture on the thumbnail of the stream and on what you see here on the screen, brother. I'm guessing Turks and Caicos is just like a different planet, but very popular amongst famous people. A couple rappers have said it in their songs, so you make that trip if you want to, brothers. I'm International Passport, and I see you, brothers, on